Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode 79 of the Baschamania podcast, and today Zahid Valencia joins the show. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Overcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure to subscribe to Baschamania. And if you enjoy this episode, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
It's Baschamania! Let me tell you something, brother. He gave us everything he had in him tonight. What you gonna do when Baschamania runs wild? Oh, it's gonna be a good one. And business just picked up here on the podcast. Oh, yeah.
Zahid, how are you, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I was telling you yesterday, it's funny we're having this conversation now because I've been having all the top guys in the podcast, and usually it's like right after they wrestle. Yeah. Well, when COVID hit, like there's nothing for a while now other than these cards here and there. And you had so much momentum heading into the trials, and there's a lot to talk about with 2020. But, you know, I want to go back to the beginning. You've got a wrestling family, to say the least. Talk to me about your beginning in wrestling, growing up in that wrestling family.
Yeah, I mean, well, my dad played semi-pro baseball, and he fell in love with the sport through my uncle. He always wrestled and fell in love with it, and he knew he wanted to put his kid into wrestling. So he put me and Anthony, whenever we were 2 or 3 years old, just take us to this little club called Terminators. So we used to just get a piece of the corner of the mat, and just kind of train there and follow.
At 2 years old.
Yeah, 2 and 3. So we just follow what the other kids were doing. We didn't stay long that year, just kind of getting the feel of it, getting used to it. And then that next following year, Anthony was able to wrestle because it started at 4 to be able to join tournaments, and I was 3, and I was always bummed that I couldn't wrestle, couldn't weigh in. So my dad ended up forging my birth certificate.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, saying that I was 4 years old. So that first year, I ended up going 1-18. I only had 1 win, 3 losses. So then, we come back after that season. My dad knows he has to get us good in order for us to like it. No one likes losing. So we started training with a bunch of different coaches, some Russian coaches, Mike Timmons. And then we eventually just started falling in love with it more and started getting good, started getting our hand raised. And I think that following year I went like 22-4. So it's just dramatic change.
That's a pretty big improvement at 4 years old.
Yeah.
What was it? How do you go from 1-18 to 22-4 at such a young age?
I think it just started, just from filling it out to, really my dad trying to implement wanting to be the best, at such an early age. So I think we finally figured out the whole winning and losing part of it. And we went out there, just trying to wrestle as tough as we can, trying to always get our hand raised, because that was pretty much the most fun part of it while we were that young. My mom being able to see us get our hand raised. So I think that's just how it started. And eventually, we started getting some of the best guys in the local area. We found, Aaron Pico, Kata Levis, and started our own Monster Garage. And from there, it took off. Started going to Tulsa Nationals, started, breaking records there with our team.
And I can't remember who it was, but I was going back and watching some interviews from this past season, and after a little back and forth between you and Brooks at the Senior Nationals, whoever it was asking the question was basically trying to ask you, like, if you struggle with that at all. Like, do you struggle with humility or this or that? And you had said no. Like, my dad instilled in me, not to celebrate too much. And aside from some, rivalry matches with Mark Hall and others, you don't celebrate that much. And I'm curious what other things your dad maybe instilled in you at a young age that helped you have that success you had, from so early on.
Yeah. My dad's instilled, is just stay humble, act like you've been there before. but at the same time, you know, after talking to him, he loves it too, you know. Just the small amounts that I put out, he loves it. Just like, you know, Aaron Brooks, down 5-0, and he's trying to run his mouth, and just little things like that. I mean, I love it as part of the sport.
I was just going to say, like, I'm a big Penn State guy. And even as a Penn State guy, I'm still like, I like the back and forth, the personality, the storylines. That's what grows the sport. You need a little bit of that.
Yeah, whenever kids start coming at me hard and trying to go, you know, I think that's when I wrestle even better. When you start trying to push my buttons, you know, it's not going to be a good time for you.
Yeah.
They go after you. I'm going to try to keep scoring as much as possible. So, I mean, it only helps me and it hurts them, I believe. And with the whole mark celebration, you know, I was thinking about that one for about 4 or 5 months since he got me in December at the Penn State duel, and he had the air guitar. So, you know, I went back to my hotel room and I was talking to Ja'Cory Teamer, and that's something that we came up with. So I was like, just thinking about that moment in the championships, doing that back to him. So everything worked out and it was awesome.
As a Penn State guy and a Mark Hall fan, I hated it. But as a wrestling fan, I love it. I love the back and forth and seeing the celebrations. You need that. And I've had a lot of guys in the podcast that come and say, like, they don't celebrate and they just want to go out but they respect, you know, guys like Nolf. Like, Nolf doesn't celebrate too much, but he loves when other guys does. He loves everybody being them and doing them. And, you know, when we talk about all the success you had early on, you know, you were a 3-time California state champ. And I do want to talk about the one loss, which we'll talk about next. But how do you think you were able to accomplish such a feat of becoming a 3-time state champ and only having one loss all throughout college or high school? I mean,
I don't think much changes once you figure out the aspect of winning and what you have to do. And I was able to learn that at a young age. Just the mindset. Once you start winning, you don't want to change anything. You know, I don't want to go back to losing. So.
Yeah.
Having that focus on what I have to do, you know, and as a youth wrestler, middle school, then high school, I had all the same plans, everything that I needed to do, the strategy, the training. So I think it was pretty easy for me to keep moving forward in that win column, just because I wanted it bad. You know, I wanted, ever since we were young, wanted to be a 4-time state champ, you know, 4-time D1 champ, then Olympic and world champ. So just keeping that mindset and moving forward from there, I think has helped me a lot.
And I feel like so many people want to be that good, right? And it's just not in their cards to have the success that you have had so far. Are there things that along the way you've continued to do to say, like, you know, you mentioned once you're winning, you don't want to lose. That applies to life. If you have success in business, you don't want to start having failures. And it makes me in business work harder, try to think of new things, how to, you know, the wins and the losses both drive me forward, I think. And from a wrestling standpoint, I'm curious, as you have more successes, does it become harder to stay in that focus?
I don't think the focus becomes harder. I do believe it takes a unit to make this type of things possible. You know, at a young age, you know, I had my mom, my dad, even my teammates, you know, some of my teammates' dads, you know, we're always there, close-knit group. And we all knew what needed to be done in order to get the best results, and just working day and night. You know, just that lifestyle, you know, waking up at 4 a.m. to get a lift in, or, you know, cutting on the treadmill, that type of things. Yeah, it's more than just wanting it and, you know, believing in it. It's just, you have to put the work in. And I think that with my unit, the people that I have close to me, they're able to help me achieve that.
For sure. And, you know, we mentioned there's that one loss where I believe you broke your foot or something, the state championship tournament your sophomore year. What was that like? I broke my foot jet skiing and it sucked. And I'm no athlete. I don't rely on my feet. You know, it's my mind and my hands for the most part. But what was that defeat like in overcoming that defeat?
Yeah, it sucked. I had it's actually a 3rd-degree sprain. I got it playing basketball right before our practice started. Just we used to play in our pull-up bar. You use that as a hoop, and we'd go and play. And I heard it, and I was faking it. I told him I didn't want to tell my dad that I heard it playing basketball. So like whenever practice started, I continued running, and I had a limp, and then I started hand fighting, and then after I went up to my dad and told him, hey, like my foot's messed up pretty bad, and he just like throws down his stopwatch. He's like, damn, we have state in 2 days.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after we got into the car and drove to the hospital that I told him, it's like, yeah, no, I got it playing basketball. And he was pissed just because, something like that. We're so close to a tournament, should have taken things more seriously. But, at that point, I went out the first day, did good at state. And then I had to wrestle Sean Williams in the semis, who I beat probably 3 times that year. I pinned him before. So having that loss, really sucked. I was back in my hotel room after taking third, just crying. But then I realized to myself, I was thinking about other previous wrestlers like Jake Warner, who's only won, I think, 2 high school state champions and became an Olympic champ. So I was like, this doesn't matter. I'm going to get my 3 and then still be the best. And that was kind of just my focus and my thoughts on it after, I did the whole hurting for myself, and it sucks. But, I had a quick change of mind saying, this doesn't define me. I'm going to keep pushing forward, keep trying to continue to be the best that I can be.
Yeah, many people, especially on the business level, talk constantly about how you can't succeed until you've had failure. You can't get hung up on that. I think it surely drives you. And you mentioned in one of your last interviews after the Matteo Pellicone tournament, when you beat Derringer, and you mentioned that you think about and have to remember how bad the losses hurt to continue to win and give you that motivation. And like some other high-level guys, you haven't had that many losses throughout your career. I mean, 1 in high school, 5 in the 5 years at Arizona State. When you have such fewer losses, do they stick with you more, and are they harder to overcome?
Yeah, I think so, 100%. I think as soon as you start losing more and taking losses, it starts to become a little more comfortable, and you're kind of used to it. It doesn't hurt as bad. So I try not to, obviously no one tries to lose, but I try as hard as I can not to be comfortable with my losses, tell myself, oh, that's okay. It was just a match. I try to win every match, and, the losses I do keep with me. I still have the feeling of my high school match, that one loss, but it does start to fade. And as soon as that happens, you take another loss here, and then it just reminds you, it's like, okay, this sucks. I hate losing more than I like winning. So, it's really good for me being able to keep those losses. And, especially with the Derringer one that I had the year before going to the Matteo Pellicone. So that kind of drive helped me, which I think for a lot of wrestlers, it's the same thing. I beat Derringer 2 years before, so he's probably thinking about me that whole year, and he wrestled a great match, and I was not expecting that type of wrestler whenever he took me out.
Yeah, for sure. Is it a quick turnaround after you have a loss, or is it like, because it's less, it takes you longer? I've heard everything on both ends of the spectrum where it's, the next day it's like, okay, the grieving is over, back to work. Others, I especially like after something like NCAA's, where if you're not going to the Olympic trials or you're not doing something, you have a couple of weeks to kind of dwell before you really go back to the grind. For you, after your losses, they're in bigger events usually. Is it right back to work right after?
Yeah, for me, it's immediately. I try to have a short memory on my, the whole feel sorry, not really feel sorry, but really try to think about what happened in that match and why he beat me. And then after that, it's okay, I got to get back to the drawing board, and keep him in my mind that I want to, come back and be able to tech him, and not just come back for a win. So I'm going to work that much harder. So that way it's never close ever again. So I don't feel that loss.
Yeah, I thought I read an article somewhere that you said after a loss or a bad match in high school, your dad would like work you guys out for hours or something after the loss, right?
Yeah, after the tournament, I mean, we'd go back to the house and start training then after a full tournament.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, the next morning, and then after that, and even during holidays, Christmas and stuff, kids are like, "Oh, nice, we have a break." We hated it because that means no school. That means there's more time to practice and more hours to gain on other kids where they're taking off. We're gonna add more hours. So
if you look back at it now, I feel like you kind of missed some of your childhood, but you're one of the best wrestlers in the world at your weight. Do you look back and like thank yourself and your dad for those sacrifices you made?
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't take it back for anything. Those are the type of things that put me in the position where I am now. And I'd rather have my fun now and win than, what can you
going
really
to friendlies and getting a Sunday.
Yeah, what can you really do as a kid? Have ice cream and you hang out with sleepovers. It's like you can do a lot more with your life.
I want to win.
Yeah, I want to win.
So speaking of winning, Arizona State, I guess we'll talk about that next. When Zeke recruited junior brother, I believe I read they were ranked like 61st. They were terrible. And I'm not surprised you didn't want to head out east. You're a California kid. You don't want snow and all that. But what led you to Arizona State?
Well, yeah, I mean, going through high school, Arizona State wasn't even on my list,
Yep.
Penn State came down, Iowa, Cornell, schools like that we were looking at. And then Zeke, whenever he got the job at ASU, he came down, he talked to us and told us to come out for an unofficial. So me and Anthony went out there with my dad and kind of talked to Zeke and his mindset and where the school was going to go, the wrestling program. And, I mean, we both just fell in love with it, He wanted to start something new in the West Coast, this powerhouse. And it's something that we kind of did at Bosco. In high school, it wasn't really a big name school, big name team. And after me and Anthony went there, everyone jumped on board. They like that aspect of winning. Yep. And I feel like we kind of have that at ASU now. Everyone just wants to win, be that national title team. So his just philosophy and his training, that's what we believed in and believed that we could start something really good there.
For sure. And it obviously panned out great for you with how much success you've had there. Looking back at your college career now that it's come to a close, what do you think some of your favorite matches and moments were? And as we keep talking about, I'm a Penn State guy, so don't say beating Mark Hall. As much as I love the rivalry, it's so great for the sport. But what do you think you look back in your career at Arizona State and reflect on?
God, I mean, there's so many different memories, but I mean, the team dueled against Penn State at home, having such a big crowd, and I didn't even get to wrestle in it. They forfeited their match, but that was an awesome feeling. Kind of, it gave us a sense of everything that we've been sacrificing, everything that we've been doing. It gave us the results that we wanted. But wrestling-wise, the year, I took the losses to Daniel Lewis and both Mark Hall, going into the NCAA tournament and getting Daniel Lewis in the semis. I called up my buddy right before I went out and I told him, hey, look, I'm taking this dude down 3 times in the first. I'm telling you, I'm going to do it. And he's like, okay, man, like, I believe that you could. And so I went out there and I took him down 3 times in the first, even though I got ridden out, but I came back in the third, took him down a couple more times. I just knew, and it was kind of a breakout for me, after because taking 2 losses in a year, that really hurt for me, and showing that I didn't just beat him, but I kind of destroyed him, was able to major him in that NCAA semifinals, and then obviously going on to the finals with momentum. Against Mark Hall and doing the whole air guitar was always awesome. So those are probably the 3 memories that stick with me the most.
And, speaking of like Mark Hall, I joke about it, but the rivalry was so good and so strong that many people said it was one of the greatest college rivalries going right now. Does it mean to you to be able to be at that caliber where your rivalry is considered one of the best in college wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything works out for a reason. I think if he wasn't there, then I wouldn't be as good as I am today.
Yeah.
I had someone to really compete with, something to strive for, And I went out there wanting to tech him every time, it's not
Sure.
he's good and he's
Yep.
just, it's most likely not gonna happen. But that kind of mindset and knowing that how good he is made me work harder because I didn't want it to be a close match. That those type of things scare me. If there's a chance of losing, I don't want any chance of losing. So that kind of rivalry, I think it's helped him. I think it's helped me. We've come back from losses and come back stronger. So I think the more rivalries we can get in wrestling, the better.
For sure. And I'm sure it also helps, when somebody like yourself wins so much from an early age. Another thing I'm always baffled at is how you guys don't burn out, right? You're going into tournaments at 3 years old, pretending you're 4, and you're still competing through college at such a high level. Does having that caliber of a rivalry help keep you focused and motivated and driven to where you don't burn out and say, I've won this, I've won that. Yeah, it's fun, but like I'm kind of burning out now. Does that help kind of refuel the fire?
I think it helps, but I don't think it's the main reason. I mean, if he wasn't there, I think I'd still love the sport. Just at an early age, me and my brother both fell in love with tournaments, just the crowd, the arena, being able to show what we have on the mat and that sense of, you're able to be superior in your technique and your strength and your conditioning. You're able to show it off to, thousands of people in the arena. So that type of thing, excites me and makes me want to do it more. And it's just, we fell in love with it and it's so much fun for us. So I think that's really mostly it, but for sure the rivalry helps.
Yeah. And your senior year was so wild. You're one of the top guys, Hodge Trophy candidate, likely to win it. And your college career didn't end the way you wanted to, both COVID canceling, and it was announced in February you're facing a suspension. And there was a ton of chatter about both the suspension, end of your career. I want to give you the floor to speak about both. Not having that send-off moment in NCAAs like most seniors have, especially ending a college career of your caliber on that stage. Most of the time there's, that's a big moment. I've seen it going to NCAAs for, 6 years in a row now. I'm starting to really get that. So you didn't have that moment, whether it was the suspension or COVID, either way, it wasn't happening. So what was it like, first of all, not having that like senior last time at NCAAs?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it sucks, how everything happened. And, with my decision, it's probably one of the things I'm going to regret most. Ending my career at ASU and that legacy that I had that's been so good, and having it kind of stopped there, I'm gonna regret it and it hurts. But trying to just to move forward. I made a stupid mistake. I thought I was invincible, and I was on the mat. Even all these guys in the college level, in the senior level, I wasn't just beating them. I was kind of putting a pounding on them. So, if I'm invincible, I can do whatever I want. And, it just takes one night, makes a stupid mistake. And even if it's not, if life doesn't humble you in a loss of a match, it finds another way.
Sure.
And I was humbled, and I was, my tournament, my win was taken away. The rest of my college career. So now it's just about moving forward. And what I like to think is, people talk and they comment on photos and I see them, and I got friends that tell me, hey, why don't you just block them, delete their comments and stuff. And, I don't. I like it there. It shows people's true faces. And for me now, I just think, well, I made a mistake. I'm going to come back stronger than ever. I'm going to get my World Olympic title. And then if I see these guys comment back on my post and good job, yeah, you're the best, I still have those ugly comments that are still there. When I was down, they weren't with me, but now when I'm back up. So it's just kind of feeling myself, but yeah, remembering what I did and knowing that you could be humbled in any type of situation, not just in a match, in a win and a loss, you know?
Yeah, and I've had things happen to me that I've done to myself that are some of the biggest mistakes in my life, and I look back on them and I'm thankful for them now because I've gone through them. I came out stronger, and there's grace. We all make mistakes, we all fall, and I think it's about how you get back up. And I'm curious, when the suspension was announced back in February, did it take a little bit of time for you to – were you hard on yourself initially? Like, what the heck did I just do to myself?
Yeah, I mean, I got the phone call from Zeke, and my heart just sank, and I said, I'm just so stupid. Like, why is this happening? You know, for a couple of days, I did the poor me, like, what the heck? Why is this happening to me? But, you know, after that, I knew none of that's going to help me. You know, that's not going to change the fact of what happened, you know, wishing this stuff. So me not knowing when I'm going to compete again or whatnot, I couldn't train with the team, so I'm on my own. And that's when I told myself, I'm gonna do whatever I can. So I started, you know, running, lifting hard to the point where, you know, I'm exhausted. I put my body through the pain. I'm hurting, and not really as a punishment. You know, I was kind of punishing myself, but at the same time, I'm talking to myself, and I'm just like, okay, no one's looking. I'm doing this for me, and I'm working hard so that way I'll be ready when I get the call to come back. I'm ready 100%. You know, I'm going to be in more condition. I'm going to be even stronger than before, and no one's going to know what hit them when people think I'm just, you know, relaxing, taking this suspension. I'm going to come back stronger than I ever was.
Yeah. And do you know yet when you can come back, or is that still up in the air?
Still up in the air, just talking with, you know, my coaches, my lawyer and stuff, but you know, I'm still in the grind. I'm training, and we're still figuring out some things, but it should be very soon.
So you definitely think you'll be at the trials then next year?
Yeah, I do believe so. Closer to yes and no.
Okay, cool. Well, that's exciting. I definitely appreciate your candor in talking about the suspension. I mean, we've all made mistakes. We've all fallen short. There's definitely grace to get back up again and keep pressing on. The last thing I'll ask about it is just drowning out the noise. Do you try to just block the noise out and drown it out as you try to move forward?
Yeah, it's not really blocking it out, but just loving it. You know, this is what I do. I love wrestling, and it's gonna come with the good and the bad. So the haters are gonna comment, and I look at it, and it fuels me. You know, it's like, okay, that's what you think, but this is what I could do about it.
Yeah.
You know, I never respond to those type of things, and
it's not worth it.
Start a finger war with them. You know, I look at it, I see it, I remember it, and then I go to what I could do to show them that they're wrong, that this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to continue my life.
Yep. So you mentioned that you're in good shape, that you've been training hard. You know, we kind of started the podcast off talking about what good shape you were in and had momentum. You beat Faith Erden, who I laughed at the interview. Like, yeah, I didn't know who he was, but I went out and teched him. And, you know, you beat Derringer, and you did awesome at Senior Nationals, awesome at the Mateo Pelicone. How do you feel right now compared to then and the momentum you had back in the winter?
I mean, yeah, I feel good as in my body, my conditioning, my strength, but you know, it's been a while since I competed, so
yeah,
you know, just having that competition kind of seems different, but you know, I'm always ready to compete. I'm always ready to win. I just have that mindset. So for me, it's just gonna have to be stepping out to that first match, kind of feeling it, and then I'm sure for me, I always think I'm ready. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go out there.
And this has to be the longest you've ever gone without competing, right?
100%. I mean, I think last February was the last time I competed against the Missouri duel, I think. yeah, it's been a while. I'm itching to get back.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So it's obvious that Arizona feels like home and is home to you, and you recently decided to stick around Tempe, train with the Sunkist kids. What went into that decision?
I mean, that's just the place where I want to win. It's I made it my home. I found love with the place. Working for ASU, and now having Sunkist so close there. I just love my teammates. I love everyone. Um, and then it was adding some good additions with Frank and Mark. It brings a different aspect to the team. To me, I think that they could help me continue helping me get to that next level. So I just want to win there for me, for them, for ASU, for Sunkist. That's just where I want to do my winning.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I recently took on Sunkist kids as a client at my marketing agency, BASCH Solutions, and as we're working on the website and other stuff, it's amazing to go through the history that the Sunkist kids have. Nobody has the prestige. Nobody has the number of Olympic and world champions. It's wild. So I don't blame you. I assume you had already been leaning towards staying there, and then you add Frank Molinaro, you add Mark Perry, you add all these high-level women coming out. Like it's growing quickly to the powerhouse. Did all that just make it easier and easier when you keep seeing these additions being added on?
Yeah. I mean, all of them together, and it's not just the wrestling aspect of it. It's been my home for almost 6 years now. So I made my family there, my friends. I'm engaged now.
Congrats on that again, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. And she's has 1 year left for softball there at ASU. So she's looking good there. So I'm just excited just to stay out there with her, with all my friends, and start working on the next chapter in my life.
For sure. And part of that next chapter, I saw you announce yesterday you signed with Terra Grappl'r. And I've been around a lot of the apparel brands. I've seen a lot of in and outs. And I'm curious, why Terra Grappl'r for Zahid?
Yeah, I mean, they reached out to me. They sent me a couple of their shoes, and they were talking to me about the process and how long they've been doing it. And as soon as I put it on, I completely understood what they were talking about. It's an amazing shoe, from top to bottom. It's just, they didn't just make it to sell shoes. They made the most comfortable, the most, it's light. It fits to your foot. Everything that they could think of, they did. So, it's a shoe that I really wanted to wear, and after talking to them and seeing what our future could look like together, I for me it was without hesitation, to sign with them.
And it's nice too to see how excited everybody is for you too. Like I saw within seconds of you posting it, Mark Perry's posting it. I saw Frank was posting it. There seems like there's such a camaraderie. Do you look to those guys when you're making decisions like that? Say, hey, what do you guys think about this?
Yeah. I mean, I respect, my elders, and looking at them, and, I'll talk before making a decision, my dad, I still reach out to Pendleton. You got Zeke. I look at Mark, Frank. Hey, what do you think? And, I mean, they've been around the game longer than I have, and they know. So I talk to them for advice, making sure, I miss something, or I'm making a stupid decision. Yeah. So, and they were right there, and they're so hands-on, which I love.
For sure. And, there is so much other stuff too to be excited about, and arguably the most is your career ahead of you still. And if you're at the trials, you're going to have a guy named David Taylor, world champion in your weight. You've got guys like Derringer and others who are hungry, who want to knock off you, who want to knock off David. You're going to come back from your longest break ever and walk into one of the hardest weights to win.
Yeah.
What is your perspective heading into that loaded weight, not only just for the trials next year, but over the next, 4 to 8 years?
I mean, I'm excited. This is what I live for. This is the challenge. I'm in this stage of my life where I have to come out and beat these top guys. It's I think this is the most fun part, just coming out, showing everyone what you got, to where eventually I want to get to the point where Burroughs, where he's just every year has to hold his title, because he's the man. And right now I'm that young kid coming up, trying to take everyone else's spot as this young kid, so it's exciting for me. I'm always up for the challenge and looking to, make the Olympic team, then the world team, win an Olympic gold. So it's just everything that I've been wanting since I was a little kid finally coming together and getting the opportunity to do it.
For sure. And when you have all these cards that are being announced, right? There's a Beat the Streets event next week. There's the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club event. You saw the fight Rumble on the Rooftop Fight TV. I got to imagine that only makes it like the itch harder and harder for you to want to compete. You're like, man, I want to step on the mat with so-and-so. Is there anybody, if you could wrestle right now, let's say the Flow event or the NLWC event, who is the one person you want to wrestle if you could choose coming back after this long hiatus, this long break? Do you have somebody in mind that you would want to wrestle first?
I mean, I would just have to say David Taylor, because I think I'm number 2 behind him, and no one really has seen that matchup, so I would just want to take him out first.
Yeah, that would be a great match. Please, I'm not I still hope, like, I just keep waiting till all these events, like literally until the day, because they keep adding matches. So I'm just gonna keep squeezing, and maybe that match will get added like last minute. But awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. Anything else you got for us?
I mean, I just want to thank you for, having me on the show. And just happy with everything that I'm able to share my story, and have people, now know me for what happened, and, just want everyone to know that I'm going to continue wrestling, continue to try to be the best, continue to want to be an Olympic world champ, so. I mean, that's it for me. Just want to thank you.
I love it, man. It's a pleasure to be able to help tell your story. And you have, when I was going through your career, there's so much to talk about. I try to keep this show to 30 to 60 minutes, but with a career like yours and many others, there's a reason guys and gals have to come back on more than once. So I'm sure this won't be the last time.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm always happy to get back on.
Awesome, man. And that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you did enjoy this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave a 5-star rating review on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more episodes. For more wrestling content, be sure to follow Baschamania on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and follow me. I'm at JBash on Instagram and at JustinJBash on Twitter. I'll be back with another episode shortly. See ya.
And the beat goes on. Beat goes on. Beat goes on. Beat